So I will call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. I am Amy McMullen, the chair of the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board. It is 6:34 and we are holding our regularly scheduled meeting for the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union. And let's see, changes, additions to the agenda. David, I think you...
Yeah, I have a couple. I wanted to add the equity audit because we have to make a decision on that. And Katie's going to talk very briefly about special education procedures that the state is requiring that we adopt. So we should probably put that down as an item for action as well.
Okay. And we were going to have just an update on masking, correct?
Yeah, and I was going to do that under my report, but we could put that under discussion as well. It's up to you. Because Mary Gannon cannot be here tonight. She had a family emergency. So we could put that discussion.
Yeah, could we have masking at the first item for discussion?
Okay, that's good. We can do that as the first item. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. Were there any other changes, additions? Hearing none, I will take a motion to approve the minutes from our January meeting on January 24th.
Motion.
So moved.
Meeting.
Mark?
I'm just going to say so moved, but somebody else was that Colleen?
I think it was Rebecca. Are you seconding? Okay.
I'll second then. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any changes or clarifications necessary on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Oh, I have to do a roll call. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just go down here. First on my list is Anne Marie.
Aye.
Bill Yates.
Aye.
Colleen Spence.
Aye.
Davis McGraw.
Aye.
Mark Youngling.
Aye.
Nikki Buck.
Abstain.
Scott Richardson.
Aye.
And Rebecca. Rebecca Roisman.
Aye.
Thank you. And I, Amy McMullen, vote aye as well. So one abstention and the rest aye. Thank you, everyone. Okay, next on the agenda is public participation on items not related to the agenda. This is when we would hear from the public. Not hearing anything.
Is this about the mask or what is it on?
This would be on an item not related to the agenda, and masking is on the agenda.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any announcements from board members? Rebecca.
Yes, I would like to announce that the Vermont School Board is sponsoring a webinar. You probably have received the information on equity on March 3rd between 4 and 5 p.m. and it's available to all board members, and it would probably be valuable just to help us understand more as we continue in our work with around equity.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rebecca. That's an excellent reminder. And all board members are encouraged to look at the Vermont School Board Association website. It's at VTVSBA. And there's a wealth of information, as well as the links to register for their workshops, many of which are free because we are members of Vermont School Board Association. I have an announcement. This is our last meeting of our currently configured Vermont Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board, because next week is town meeting and some people are up for re-election. Others would be, but they are not running. So I want to thank everyone who has put in their time, effort, and spent long nights at board meetings for the last few years. And I want to wish everyone well. And those who are running for re-election, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we hope for good news after this next Tuesday. And I believe Scott Richardson is one person who isn't running for re-election. Scott?
Yeah, that's right, Amy. I'm going to turn on my, thank you. And I had a housekeeping thing that related to that. So I'm the SU treasurer, and I was just looking at the site to figure out that to confirm that actually I was. So the board will just need someone to do that for a month until you reorganize.
Yeah, we'll get that figured out. I think there's a backup signature. So.
Oh, that's right. It was Nancy Pedrick, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think so.
Sorry about that, Nancy.
But there might also be a writing campaign for you, Scott.
No, there isn't.
Bill,
won't allow
your hand is raised. Bill. Bill.
Monday night, I was approached. I was going to use accosted, but I was approached by Chris Ganji and the Price Chopper, really upset with me because I wasn't running. But I just want, if this announcement, I am running. I just didn't get my paperwork in time, so I am not on the ballot. So just want to make sure everyone knows that he seemed very upset that I was not running.
Yes, so Bill Yates is running a write-in campaign. So keep that name in mind when you go to the polls on Tuesday. We have someone unknown with their hand raised.
Is it too late to run or to be on the ballot?
It is too late to be on the ballot, yes.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's it for announcements. Superintendent's report. It's all yours, David.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and I'll try to do this quickly. And in my report, there are a couple of other people who are going to report out, so I may share screen and then stop sharing screen if somebody else has to do that. So just hang in there for a second, and we will get going here. Yeah, so Amy, you can see that, correct?
Yes, I can. I can even read it without putting my face right up to my screen. So
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
great. I can't see anybody, so, we'll get through the presentation as quickly as we can. And then one of the things I know, and I know there's a lot of people on tonight, will be, I'll talk a little bit about our masking position right now and what our COVID task force would like to do as we go forward. But then when it gets under discussion, certainly, the public can weigh in. But let's try to get through this. So families, continue to cooperate according to all protocols. So we've been very fortunate to have a very supportive community. We've managed to keep our buildings open. Not all the schools around us have been able to do that, but we have been able to do that. And again, hats off to the entire communities, the staff, the parents, the kids, especially our nurses who have worked, and again, I think, part of what I'm sure people are interested in tonight is we do see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and we are hopeful. We were also hopeful at the end of last year, and we got sorely disappointed within that hope. But we're going to stay hopeful and optimistic as we go forward. I want to just give a shout out to Wethersfield School and the Scutney Fire Department because they ran 2 clinics, and they're actually going to run a 3rd clinic in March. I don't have the exact date. Anne Marie, I don't know if you have that March date or not, but I'll
I don't know it.
Yeah,
It's
I'll
March
get it up.
12th, Dr. Baker.
Brian, you've got it?
Yeah, it's March 12th.
Good, thank you. Yeah, March 12th.
10:30 to 1 o'clock.
10:30 to 1 o'clock, March 12th will be the 3rd one, because what happened at the last one is not only did folks get their 2nd shot, but there were also some new people who came on board to get a shot. So they wanted to do another one on March 12th to provide again for a second vaccination. So thanks to both of those organizations for teaming up and doing that. And Brian, you had a pretty good turnout last time, right? Again?
Yes, we did. We had great turnouts both times that we've had the vaccination clinic at the school.
Yeah, that's good. So thanks for that, Brian, and send our thank you along to the Chief Spalding as well. We still we run day to day. It's getting better now as the positivity rates go down, but staffing has always been an issue. But as I said earlier, we haven't had to close a building, and that's because the staff has pitched in to do jobs that sometimes, they haven't done in the past. But if they have to cover a class or cover a lunch or they do it and they step in, and again, that's why I want to give a shout out there. This is what I was talking about earlier. We do need to make some decisions about continuation of the mask mandate after February 28th. That's when the state mandate sunsets. I don't know whether there'll be a press conference or not. We do not have any solid official guidance from the Agency of Education or the Vermont Department of Health. Those are the 2 big agencies that we pay close attention to, and we try to follow the guidance as closely as we can. I'm expecting to get some guidance this week, and we'll talk more about this under items for discussion. But I think it's important to note that the general sentiment of the COVID task force, and we met again today, is to just go slowly with this, but be deliberate, be careful, and to take our time, maybe start to unmask in certain areas. I know that the COVID task force, which is made up, of the nurses and the administrative team, also, is feeling hopeful and optimistic about the the weather patterns as the weather gets better too. So, we can get outside more. I remember in the spring of last year and in the fall of this year, we did a lot of things outside. Phys ed can go outside. Actually, all classes can go outside if they want to. We can also have PE outside. It just gives us a lot more opportunity. I think the thing that we're going to want to keep our eye on, and the COVID task force agreed with this, is not so much vaccination rates anymore. I think we found with this Omicron variant and the variant that's coming in behind Omicron, that while the vaccination can certainly help with the intensity of illness, that it doesn't necessarily help with spread. I think what's happening with these strains and these variants, and this is very typical, this is what happened with flu, it's what happened with common cold, that as these mutate and these different variants come along, that what happens is the strain, our immunity systems build a little bit stronger, and also the strains become a little bit less virulent and damaging to the body, but sometimes they are more contagious. So we just need to be careful. And the last thing I'll say, and I'll say it too when we get to the discussion part of this, that we have to remember that schools are what are called in the business world and industry world non-transient businesses or institutions, which means our client, it's not like a bank or a restaurant or a store where you go in and you come out. The bottom line is once you're in the building for at least 7.5 hours for staff, 6+ hours for kids, and it's compulsory. Everybody has to be there. Those who work, those kids have to be there by law. And so again, I got the sense from the task force today that there's certainly an openness to and a willingness to get us to a point, reasonably soon where we can unmask. But it's not like we feel strongly that on February 28th all masks should come off and we should go back to normal. That was not the feeling, and we can certainly again take questions and discussion when we get to that part of the agenda. Other general updates. All budget warnings are posted, and we had our first annual school informational meeting last night in Heartland. Christine and Nicole did a great job. There were a few questions, but not many. Tomorrow night is the Mount Scottney school information meeting, and then on Saturday morning, and that one is virtual tomorrow night, and on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. the Weathersfield's school budget information meeting. That is both in person and virtual, and we always look forward to questions and participation. The budget booklets, are printed and are out and about in town, but also all of the warnings and all of the town reports are on the school website, and I think they're on the town websites, but I'm not absolutely positive. We finished up the second round of Exact Path and Track My Progress, and it took a little longer than we thought, but anyhow, it is done. That's our assessment tool to kind of monitor how students are moving along, and this is especially important in this year of supposed recovery. It didn't turn out to be a recovery year. It probably turned out to be more of a year we're going to have to recover from again. And I think one of the things we're going to do in March is give a deeper dive into the data report on those two instruments, and also talk about looking more toward student progress than actually who's below, who's above standard. But Angie and Brittany will take a deeper dive in March. Mary Gannon has signed her contract with us. She was going to be here tonight to discuss with the SU board her recommendations for a work plan. She had a family emergency, so she couldn't be here tonight. Mary Gannon is going to be working with the Supervisory Union Board on issues around equity. She's going to help us put a job description together for what's a diversity, equity, and inclusion leader in our district. And she is also going to do some staff development and professional development with our supervisory union board. When Mary emailed me about not being here tonight, I thought that maybe that was probably better because, as was mentioned, we'll have our reorganizational meetings and we'll have a new supervisory union meeting by the union board by the time we get back on March 28th. So it'll probably be good that that board gets involved in Mary Gannon's work. And special education procedures. I know, Katie, you're going to talk about this. Do you want to do that now? Do you have slides?
I do. I have I was going to do a little bit of a few updates and then talk about the procedures. So it's some more
Okay,
majority and some details.
Let me
Is-
stop. I'll
Isn't
stop.
that on the agenda?
Yes, it is. It's down at the bottom. You'll see under items for action. Bill, you might not have been here, but we added it.
Yeah, we added that, Bill.
The beginning part is just what David had asked me to do as part of the principal report to update a little bit in special ed or superintendent's report. It's the second time I've done that today. The superintendent's report. The other is I will just preview what David's talking about for the procedures. So I'll try sharing my screen. Window. Oh, that's not. Sorry.
You have to actually click on that window, Katie, when you open it.
Got it. Share that. All right.
There you go. You got it.
So, Dr. Baker had asked me just to do a little bit of an update on what's new in special ed, since I haven't said anything a whole lot lately because we've been pretty straight out. So one of the things that was in my town report that I had put in this year and last year was the rhetoric that all students are regular education students first. And in addition, some students receive special education services. We're really working on internally to change the narrative and rearrange our adjectives, one conversation at a time, to move us towards a more inclusive environment by talking about students first and the fact that they receive special education services. They're not special education students. So that's something that you will start hearing more and hopefully infusing that language into our regular conversations. Couple of things around that you might have seen. This is about 4 feet by 3 feet, and it's on every single playground in the SU. So all 4 buildings have one. It is a picture-based communication board. It's intended for students who need assistance in identifying some language, whether they're currently having a moment and not being able to find the words, or they're an individual that is non-speaking and uses this in general for communication in school. We are, I believe, one of the first playgrounds in the state to have one. We did a little bit of outreach to local news outlets. Didn't get any bites for anybody yet to come do a ribbon cutting and celebrate with the fact that we have this tool for everyone to use. But it's by the fence in Heartland. We're going to put a second one up in Heartland because their playground's so big and takes up so much square footage. The one in Weathersfield's by the brick wall near basketball court. The one in Windsor School is in the main playground area. And the one at Albert Bridge is sort of near the little gazebo. So that's pretty cool. We had a local printer do it too. So that was kind of nice. We were able to keep it all pretty local. The other exciting thing that's happening, and thank you to Jim Taft, a big shout out to him. As behind the scenes, we are working on bringing unified basketball to Windsor School. And it'll eventually be a whole SU piece. But unified basketball originally started as part of Special Olympics. It is now a VPA high school sport. And there's also unified sports for younger students. Because of COVID and getting everything up and running and lots of logistics, we're offering a modified version this spring, and it happens on the shoulder season in Vermont, where students with intellectual disabilities, referred to as athletes, and partner players, students that may not meet that criteria, assist and work with the athletes in playing basketball. We have locally, Hartford has a team, Springfield has a team, I think there's about 6 or 8 teams total in Vermont. We'll be practicing 3 days a week with the middle school through high school students. I don't know how many yet. We're just getting names. But it'll give us a taste of it, get kids interested so that next year we can be full participants. I can't see anybody, so I heard something ding, so I didn't know if I should stop to answer a question.
No, that was Keegan just saying that that's such a great idea.
Okay, well, we're pretty excited. I'll share. I have a daughter who participates and has for years, and it is a phenomenal program. And once we're up and running, and we can have people visit and see our scrimmages, we are going to have some scrimmages with area teams. And it's an amazing program. So I'm very excited that we're bringing it to the SU, and we'll start small and work our way up to being bigger. Just a few other notes. Someone had asked a little while back of sort of our out of district students and what we're doing, looking at bringing students back to our community. Currently, we have approximately 5 students transitioning back to being in our home-based community school. And we approximately estimate next year we'll have about 19 students being out of district placements, which is significantly down. I believe when I came, we had close to 40. Lots of reasons. One of the main reasons is we are really building our internal capacity, which is the next couple of paragraphs, to have students remain in the community schools. So we're actually placing students as needed, where they need to be, because that's our requirement and that's what we want to do in the best interest of students. At the same time, if we have more opportunity for continuum of services in-house, that keeps students within the community. For example, I know you've heard me speak before about the academic program for the middle and high school students, for our more intensive needs students who need a more community-based alternative curriculum program. We now have students from all of the districts that participate in that program. 6th through 10th grade is our current age range. And we are finding, we are seeing an increase in students who are on the autism spectrum. As you know, we have 3 full-time board certified behavior analysts. We actually have 3 of those positions filled this year now, with the addition of 1 person who came on about 6 weeks ago. We are looking at building our capacity in one building, so that we're going to have a small intensive applied behavior analysis program rather, next year in one building to meet the needs. We're going to see a bubble of students coming through the SU. So it's another way of building our capacity. And we're really excited about staff's willingness to learn and do some professional development around that on their own time, as well as the individuals we already have on board. I can save the... Yes.
Katie, I'm sorry. This is Amy. Elizabeth Burrows had a question. Is the ABA the only program available for kids on the autism spectrum?
It's not the only it is a... how do I put this? ABA is not the only approach and program. And ABA is pretty broad in terms of its application, depending on student needs. But we have a need to look at a group of students who are entering in such a way. So we have other students who receive services in different ways, more inclusively, or in separate, their own individual programs within the district. So it is dependent on what the student needs. So it's not a one size fits all. Does that answer your question, Elizabeth?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. And the last this is referencing what we'll see later when we talk about the policy. This is related to the policy the board already passed earlier this year. I think it was December. The manual that policy references was published February 8th, which is after we passed the policy, but that's the order of operations the AOE did things in. So now that that is passed, the manual is published, it was sent out. That's on the order for business later to look at that and hopefully make a motion to adopt it. And just the brief, the AOE, all of us, every SU has to adopt either individual policies addressing an extensive list of special education issues, and it is extensive, or adopt the manual. Basically, the AOE created the manual that mirrors the regulations, but the manual meets the requirements that we're all required to have according to the Federal Office of Special Education. So it's a necessary piece. And so we have two ways to do it. The most expedient and clean way to do it is adopt the manual. So at least for now is what we've been, what I'm suggesting. So, and we can discuss that further, obviously later. But that was the end of what I had to present tonight.
Yeah, Rebecca has a question, Amy. And you can stop sharing maybe, Kate, because I'll pull mine back up.
My
Rebecca?
question's for Katie. Katie, is this a new shift to include children with disabilities in different ways? You talked about the communication board. You talked about unified sports, and you also spoke about ABA. And I think that it's all really good stuff. But I'm just wondering, is this a new shift from the Board of Ed, or is this something that the department has been working on for some time?
In terms of the first couple of things, the communication board is definitely a shift in the field to have more inclusive playground environments. We will also be adding some of those boards in other areas of the schools, cafeteria, gym, more public areas where sometimes our students may not be carrying their devices. We have students who use communication devices that serves the same purpose. So that's more of a field shift. The unified basketball has been around for a long time. I think that's probably more of my own experience with it and wanting to seeing in the opportunity that students would be interested in it. The other with the policies, that's definitely from the AOE. Part of our monitoring and requirements, the Agency of Education has received a lot of feedback over the past couple of years of where our Vermont special education is in compliance or non-compliance with what the federal feds say that we're supposed to be. And a lot of it had to do with, do we have policies written and accepted by boards? Even though a lot of the policies are exactly what the Vermont state regulations say we're supposed to be following, the law. We're just basically reiterating that we're going to follow the rules and the law, but now we have to have policies that explicitly explain all those pieces and parts. It's redundant's not the right word, but it is pretty close. It mirrors maybe. So I think it's another assurance that we're committed to the rules for all students. Is best way I could put that one.
Thank you.
Bill,
Okay.
your hand is raised.
So just sort of generally to answer Rebecca's question as well a little bit. because Rebecca worked in New Hampshire quite a bit. Vermont has been working on inclusion for a few decades, and what Katie has gone over is just a continuation. More and more of the school day and different things are becoming more inclusive, and I think it's a great direction.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you, Katie, for your presentation.
Yeah, we hadn't heard from Katie in a little while, and I thought, especially since we had special education procedures on the agenda, we should hear from Katie. And I also want to thank her for the work, especially around creating some of those pieces that that we didn't have, and all the excellent work that goes on with that entire department. And bringing kids home. Our philosophy is to try to serve kids as close to their homes so they can be close to their friends. They can be on buses with their friends. And so it's not easy. I will tell you that. Sometimes it's difficult, but I think it's a worthy cause. Equity audit update. We can talk about this later on. It's on the agenda. We do want to get this work started. I don't know how many of you know this, but we were going to partner with Springfield. I'm still working with Zach on whether we do that. Zach is moving on to another superintendency next year, so it's really just a question of whether or not we can work this out in time. But I didn't want our work to get held up, and I would really like to get the RFP out. So again, it's on the agenda. Item A, we put it on earlier, so we'll talk about that later. Equity cohort. Some of you who have been on the board for a while might remember this, but the equity work certainly that I've done over the life of my career culminated a couple of years ago with my being accepted to the Deeper Learning National Institute equity cohort. So COVID this is a small group of people who really get to experience some of the real deeper learning. That's why it's called deeper learning around equity issues, and it involves three. We're supposed to involve 3 trips. We did one down in New Orleans. It was an incredible experience. I think way back when I did some presentations to the board, and then there is another trip coming up March 28th, April 1st. We're going to try to move that forward with. They're going to try to get that going again for cohort number 4, and I'll talk more about that at our March meeting. Middle level work continues. We'll talk a lot about this at our individual boards, local boards. Each building is a little bit different, but we did come up with, after several meetings, what we're calling some common themes or common indicators that we'd like to see across the SU. And I'll be sharing those at the local board level, but that the entire middle school team, when you get everybody together, we were probably a team of 25, 26 educators and several administrators. But again, stay tuned because we'll do that at the local level. Second quarter financial update. I can do that. Maybe I forgot to add it, Amy, but we can do that under items for action. But let's not do that right now. We can make that even E on our items for action. I do have it. And
you mean items for discussion?
Discussion, excuse me. Thank you. Items for discussion. And last but not least, teacher contract is completed and signed. Support staff negotiations completed, and we're reviewing the drafts. Negotiated agreements go through 2024 with teachers and 2025 with support staff. Thanks to Bill, Jackie, and Scott for all the hard work in that negotiation process. So in the interest of time, I'm going to stop sharing and stop presenting. And certainly if there are any questions, if not, I know that some of these things are going to come up later on as part of the agenda.
Thank you, David. Were there any board questions on David's presentation? Rebecca, I saw that your hand was raised again. Are you? Okay, you're good. Okay, so we are moving on to items for discussion. And the first item, David, if you could explain a little bit more on masking.
Yeah, so we've all heard from the media sources, and to be honest with you, we don't have any official word, like I said, from the AOE or from the Vermont Department of Health, but it's the understanding that the current mask mandate sunsets in the state on February 28th. And I think there have been some political comments and made by the governor around making masking voluntary and not mandatory. So that quite frankly, a lot of those announcements came out just before our vacation and during our vacation. So we didn't have a real time to process that before we left for vacation, but we spent some time with the administrative team right before vacation. And today we spent some time with our COVID task force. So I see a hand, Bill. Do you want to make a comment?
Well, I'd just like an opportunity for some of the board members and some of the public to chime in here a little bit about.
There will be, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah. Once I finish, I shut up and you guys, because one thing that I have stated firmly is that I think, based on positivity rates and some data and feedback from both staff and our community and families, the board has to really have these discussions and make these comments. So I just wanted you to know that right now, our COVID task force that has been meeting for the last 2 years is not opposed to following suit with loosening up the mask mandate and making it more choice, but they want to go slowly with that, and they want to, at the same time, keep an eye on the positivity data as we move forward. And we've got some ideas that we don't need to share tonight, but ways in which we can move in that correct direction. We did do a staff survey. Angie's got those results. If the board wants to see those, you can ask us and we can present those results from a staff survey. We do intend also to survey, our parents and public. But again, with the vacation, we haven't had time to really do that. And as always, we find out about these things sometimes at the press conferences, and we don't get a lot of upfront word. So that's I think where we are. No opposition, but certainly want to be careful and go slowly because of the fact that we're a closed environment and a non-transient environment. But I do think the board needs to discuss it and give us some direction.
Anne Marie, your hand is raised.
I think your volume might be off, Ann.
Sorry. I missed the last couple of governor's press conferences. Is there still the 80% threshold, or did he get rid of that as well?
He is, he doesn't use, you're talking about the schools, right?
Yeah, I mean the 80% vaccination rate within the school. Yes.
Yeah. That's still talked about, but mostly it's not firm guidance. It's really just recommended. But the 80% is still bounced around as a possibility. But I think the sense that I get from the Vermont Department of Health and from the governor's office, but I pay more attention to the Vermont Department of Health, is that we're moving away from vaccination rates and we're moving more toward positivity rates. But again, we haven't got the official guidance yet. And the 28th isn't even really here yet, but 80% is still talked about. And I don't know if anybody else has any information on that 80% rate.
Well, I think the
Bill?
80% rate was also based upon the mandate. So once the mandate goes away, that 80% threshold goes away because there's no more mandate based upon the state. It's all localized decision. But I want to disagree with something David said that it's not so much they're moving away from vaccination rates, that they're also starting to move away from positivity rates as well. And beginning to pay more attention to hospitalizations and deaths. And I think that's probably the most important threshold because this is not going away. COVID is not ever going to go away. It's going to become part of all the other respiratory illness that we have. And the most important factor is not whether or not we have 20 or 30 infections. It's whether or not their hospitals are in regular working condition and there is room and personnel available for within the local hospitals to handle the very rare case that students require medical attention.
Bill, if I may,
Elizabeth, yes.
today, our hospitals are still totally overwhelmed, even though we have pretty low case numbers. So but
I'm not saying our hospitals aren't overwhelmed. Yeah, we're still not out of the water yet.
I know. What I'm saying is that solving the hospital issue is totally separate, or not totally separate, but not as linked to solving the pandemic mystery as you might think. The hospital issue is something that was made much worse by the pandemic, but it's also its own really hairy problem.
Well, I'd have to agree and disagree with you that yes, it is its own problem. The medical issues were there before, but at the same time, the real issue in schools, I'm talking about my own personal opinion, is that with some science base, it's not whether or not kids are getting infected. It's whether or not there is the ability to deal with the rare case that students need hospitalizations. And hospitals have not recovered yet to the point that beds aren't quite available. I think we're on the right track. Last week, hospitalizations went down 30%, but that's still, hospitals are not functioning at an expected level yet. So basically what I'm saying is that I'm agreeing with David for a different reason than looking at infection rates. I'm agreeing with David that we have to take it slow so that the capacity is there to deal with infections.
I understand. My point is that the capacity is only partly caused by the pandemic. The capacity is actually caused by our workforce being down, our hospital and healthcare workforce being down 68% in Vermont.
Right. But I never said that the capacity was caused by the pandemic. I said that the capacity has to recover.
And there's more to all of this than just the chance of a child. I mean, we do care that our children could possibly be hospitalized, but we also care very deeply that our teaching and administrative staff would be hospitalized.
Yeah.
And with that, I have 3 hands raised. First is Rebecca, then David, then Davis. So Rebecca.
Thank you, Amy. David, I have a question, and that is on your on the task force that is working on this. Does it include local medical professionals? Because our hospitals here see the children from the community, and they can also give input on what they're seeing or what they're not seeing.
Yes, it does, Rebecca. It has 2 members of the Mount Scottney Hospital team, one pediatrician and one person who deals with these kinds of situations in the hospitals, and also has a background in immunology. They were not at our meeting this morning, but they have attended pretty regularly.
David?
Am I next, Amy?
Oh, yeah, David, you are.
And mine is really, really quick. The reason why, and by the way, I don't dispute Bill, I think hospital rates will be an important factor, but why positivity for schools is so important is because if our positivity rate increases, and whenever we have a positive COVID case, if it's a staff member, they have to stay home. If it's a child, they have to stay home. So our capacity to run our buildings depends on how many positive cases we're getting in any particular week, day, month, or year. So that's why, because we're a closed environment, we depend on people coming every day. We have to be attentive to the positivity rate. That's why that's so important to the task force.
Thank you, David. Davis?
Thanks, Amy. And actually, this segues pretty well off what David was saying. And Amy, I appreciate you bringing up that, a large part of this is keeping staff healthy. And as David pointed out, when there is a positive case, that pulls staff out of the building. I know that when this all started, schools had to go remote. And that was an emergency measure. We didn't really have the capacity to really do that in the most effective way possible. It was something that we were forced to do. And to me, just looking at taking it slow, working with our local COVID task force, following kind of like state recommendations. I mean, my goal as somebody in this board is to make sure, there's a lot of things I want to make sure, but making sure the building can stay open, because I know that that's the best way that we can provide education for all these students. So that's high on my concerns here. Is I don't want to see us having to start closing the school. It's amazing that we haven't yet, and I want to keep going on that track. I appreciate discussions about how interconnected our institutions are with healthcare institutions and other local bedrock institutions, but I don't think that the importance of the schools being able to stay open and operational can really be overstated.
Thank you, Davis. Elizabeth, your hand is raised.
Thank you, Amy. I just wanted to make a pitch for the importance of community members being able to go back inside the school buildings and to have the students interact with community members. I'd much rather see that happen before the masks be removed. Like if it's one or the other, I'd much rather be able to get inside that school and walk around among the students, having a mask on. Doesn't if the mask would enable me to be inside the school and would enable everybody to stay healthier or have a better chance of being healthy, I'm for that until we're totally sure that we're in the clear. Thanks.
Thank you. You make a really good point that there are a lot of places that are now allowing public because they're requiring masks.
I want to say that is not an original thought. That thought came from Annalise Ennis, and so I'm parroting her. I don't want to take any credit for Annalise's beautiful thoughts.
Well, thank you, Annalise. And thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing it. But just there are so many more opportunities that are happening now in our communities. There are theater productions that are happening, and everyone who is going to these is wearing a mask. And that is allowing us to have these opportunities as well as keeping ourselves and those around us safe. Bill, your hand is raised.
A couple of points I want to point out. I think it's important to recognize the desire for people to have schools unmasked, and that their desire is a valid desire. It's not something that shouldn't happen. That's really our end goal. I think as a school board, we would just like to do it as safely as possible. The other thing that about taking it slow is that Claremont is unmasked. And I think that allows us to have a beta group to look at to see what happens to them and what are the consequences of a school district so close to us who has gone without masks before we have. And that's going to provide us with a lot of good data that if they're successful, then there's probably no reason why we can't be successful. If they're not successful, that basically shows us that we're correct to go slow.
Thank you, Bill. That brings up another really good point. We do have a lot of information that we can glean from other districts. And we have a public Misty vote. I don't want to mispronounce your name, so Misty, your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you. It's Misty Booten.
Okay, thank you, Misty Booten.
Thank you. I just want how many minutes do we have? I'm just curious. I timed out my speech. It's about 6 minutes.
We are giving people 2 minutes.
Okay, I do have people on the call willing to give me their 2 minutes.
We're not doing that. Everyone has 2 minutes.
Okay, then I'm going to step back and let other people speak. I'm not going to use my 2 minutes at this time.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca.
I just want to also comment on what Bill said in terms of looking at other communities. I know that when the select board met, I think it was Jill had brought some information, and it really compared Norwich, which is a town similar in population to Windsor, who had chosen to mandate masks and clearly showed that as a result of those statistics, there seemed to be a higher increase in Windsor, who did not have a mandate, as opposed to Norwich. I want to be clear with that, but I think that was what was brought up at the select board meeting. So the idea that Bill mentioned and saying we have someone right across the river who just recently made it optional is a good idea, is a good thought.
Thank you. And there is currently a mask mandate for in public places indoors in the town of Windsor. And I also think that looking at the positivity rate is a very, it's more based on science, and because there are so many people who are against vaccinations. It keeps us out of that argument and bases it more on who is currently infected. And also it keeps our staffing levels. We would have an idea of what is happening with our staff and keeping our staff safe. And there's also a threshold that we have to maintain as far as student population to have an actual student school day. David.
I just want to go back to what Elizabeth said. What we talked about at the task force today was some of those things that Elizabeth mentioned, because we are all concerned. I'm sure everybody on this call is concerned, about the emotional and social, emotional, mental health of our students. That's really what's key. And this has been a tough year for adults and students and families. But we talked about, as we scaffold this and roll this out, there are things we'd like to even start to do first, like, for example, crossing pods. Right now, there are kids that have friends in 5th grade. They haven't really been able to spend a lot of time with those friends. Or maybe cafeteria, open up our cafeterias, get volunteers, maybe back in our building, start talking about field trips, drama, music, the kinds of things that Elizabeth was mentioning. I think that really also contributes to the mental health of our students. And I think we could, we can certainly do some trials around positivity while we're doing that, and just keeping an eye on that, masking and unmasking, and just seeing what effects it has on that positivity. The key is always to, to have kids interact, to be healthy, but most importantly, to keep our schools open. And I think, I think we've done a good job, but I want to continue to do that. But I just wanted to go along with what Elizabeth said earlier.
Thank you. Mark Youngling, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I posted it in the text box, but basically I think the success of an unmasked school really has to take into account the impact on the community as a whole. I don't think just how many of our students end up in hospital is a good measure of it, of the entire impact of it. We know I just contracted it. I'm very happy to say that I am now negative, but I lost a week that could have been vacation, and I'm almost always masked. We know how transmissible this is, but I was inconvenienced. And I think for the unvaccinated family members of pupils that are bringing this home, it's a completely different story. So I think the broad spectrum of what the impact is of getting rid of the masks has to be considered more than just the individual impact on the students.
Thank you, Mark. And I'm glad to hear that you are feeling better and are now negative. Were there other comments? There are 2 hands raised. First, Kelsey O'Connor, and then Misty Booten.
Hi, I'm Kelsey O'Connor, and I'm the parent of 2 kids in the Windsor school. And I don't have a lot to say about the mask issue, just that I am so proud of our school boards and our SU for the incredible work that you've done the last 2 years. And I just put my full trust and faith in you all to make the best decision for my children and for the children in our community. So I just wanted to say thank you. I think you've all done an amazing job. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, Kelsey. Misty Booten.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, I kind of had to reconfigure things a little bit. I had a couple of things I wanted to point on, but I think I'm just going to skip right down to what my family endured. I'm going to hit a story about my son. First, I think the point is my 7-year-old was vaccine injured when she was 2 months old. So she suffered a severe vaccine reaction. That's important for you to know because it's a huge reason why my family decided not to get vaccinated. My son is unvaccinated. He is an athlete for the Windsor School. He's on the basketball team. When they first started the season, the whole team was told that if they all got vaccinated, they could take their masks off. This was false information, but at the time, my son didn't know that. I don't believe it was the coach's intentions. I do, however, believe it was the false information that trickled down from the top with continued pressure for all kids to get vaccinated. My son is believed to be the only player on the team who is unvaccinated. I'm sorry, it put a tremendous amount of pressure on him, feeling like he was responsible to get vaccinated so his teammates and friends could take their masks off. If you can understand how this may have made him feel discriminated against for a choice that he made for himself. I wrote to this athletic director and had a really great conversation, and I do believe that this was a mistake on the coach's part. I do not believe it was malice, but we have to understand that we are causing hate within our school, and we are pitting one child against the other and leaving them in situations to feel like they're responsible for their peers in a sense that is out of their control. Now, my son chose not to get vaccinated because he understands the consequence that can arise from vaccines, even though it's minimal and it's small, it does happen. And he needed to make a choice for himself, what was right for him. But when he was told that if he got vaccinated, his peers could relieve and take off their masks, which they all want to do, whether they say it or not. I have teen boys here all the time in my home. I know how they feel about it. He felt pressured to get a vaccine he didn't want to get. And then vice versa, if you look at the team, now looking at my son saying, well, if you just get a vaccine, I can take my mask off. And how do you not think that creates hate? How do you not think that pits one student against another? We're causing division. We're causing hate, and these masks are a part of that. And continuing to tell kids, oh, if you get vaccinated, take your mask off. If you get vaccinated, if we get to 80%, if we do this, we are hurting our kids. And I had a whole written out speech, and this is kind of falling apart, and I'm just kind of going off the hip. But I felt like it was important to understand that we continue to put pressures on kids, and it does impact them. And I just wanted to say that to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty. And I'm sorry that your son experienced that. And that is one of the reasons that I feel it's important that we move away from looking at vaccinations because it's created so many divisions in our communities, and looking at positivity rates instead, because that has a direct impact on the health of our staff and the ability of children and their classmates, vaccinated or not, to attend school. So I think it's positivity rate that we need to be paying more attention to. Thank you. And we have Unknown with a hand raised.
Hi guys, how are you doing today? I put my hand up because it's funny that you guys had the meeting today. But I was just so fed up today because I was speaking to my daughters. I have 8 years old and I have a 6 years old that go to Windsor. And I asked them, I said, how's the mask? You know, every day I get complained, every single day. There's no a day that I do not get a complaint from my child. They don't come home with burgers all over them. And then the weirdest thing that I heard today is that the kids get 3 strikes. They get told 3 times. And if they don't, somebody will yell at them to put the masks up. And I just pray, I truly pray to God that's not the truth. But I'm just trying to figure out is I see all these grown folks, I see all these different adults around Windsor not wearing masks, not worried about anything when it comes to masks. But when it comes to the kids, we're so worried about the kids, though we're not worried about the grown folks that's doing it. But like the kids finally got to go outside with no mask. I guess they finally said they don't have to go outside with masks, but they're so subjected that they still wear masks just to go outside. And I think that's so messed up for them just to go outside and breathe the air. And then they've been wearing masks to come inside to wear masks. The only time they tell me they don't wear masks is when they get to eat. And I just don't know how you guys are saving these kids. I don't know how these are helping the kids. And they get COVID every other day. They can stay at school. They have no problem staying in the school, taking a stupid test, and they could just stay at school. And somehow that's not considered spreading, but wearing a mask is okay. That's what's preventing all this stuff. And if you have kids at school, you know the feeling that you get every day from your kids. There's kids with pimples everywhere. There's kids burgers everywhere. They're literally crying because they can't breathe half of the time in school. But you know what? We're not worried. We're not worried for the kids. We're worried for our grown self. Because if we're worried about the kids, we actually listen to them. We'll hear them saying, these masks are not doing nothing. It's only for your fear. It's only for adult fears around them. It's not the kids. Like the lady said before that, she knows what the kids are saying. And she knows the other students that's feeling. Same thing for me. I see a lot of kids, they don't care. It's not that they don't care. They don't want these masks, but it's mostly adults want this for them. So really, if you're really thinking about the kids, really think about their kids. And ask them what they feel. Ask them what this makes them feel. Not what makes you feel, but what the kids. So, but thank you for listening to me. And I pray this, God, you guys do it by February 28th. If not, we're going to have to do something.
Okay, thank you. Allison Clough.
Hi. I have a kid at school. I also have previously worked with the supervisory union. I just, my comment was that what I understood from the governor's press conference was that public schools were enmeshed in that mandate lifting. So just per my understanding, that means that once the February 28th comes up, it's now optional. Am I incorrect?
David, could you answer that?
Yeah, no, that's not true. The agency only issues guidance, but the local districts and the local district school boards have by law the duty of care. So you set your own, your own policies, your own dates, your own mandates or no mandates. The state can't do that. Once the state mandate is lifted, then as Bill, I think, said, it's totally local control after that. This board, that's why it's important to have this discussion tonight around how fast or slow to go with lifting that mandate.
So it's just up to you, few people on the board, and it's your call.
That's correct.
So we would do that with consideration and with information from our COVID task force, as well as from our teaching and administrative staff, because there's many considerations that we have to look at.
Okay, just because, okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Tara Howard.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I know this is a touchy subject. At this point, there are studies and data that now support both sides. I would like to read to you really quick the cardboard card that comes in the package of masks that I send my stepdaughter to school with every day. This mask is not a medical device, toy, or personal protective equipment offering protection from COVID-19 or any other airborne particles. This product is not intended as a replacement for medical grade personal protective equipment or other recommended measures to stop the community spread of COVID-19, including social distancing, washing your hands, and refraining from touching your face. I think that this nonsense needs to end. I think that our kids deserve better. I've personally witnessed my stepdaughter go through several things, from being forced to wear this mask every day while she's at school. I think that, you know, kids are the least susceptible of being hospitalized and or dying from COVID. I really think that we need to let our kids be kids. You get one childhood and we all know how fast it goes. Please let our kids be kids. That's all I have.
Thank you. And Meredith Kelly.
Good evening. I just want to clarify procedurally how this decision will come down. Is it from the Supervisory Union Board, the local board, or the COVID task force?
It will be the Supervisory Union Board, but we will be getting information from the COVID task force, and we will also be taking into consideration our staff and administrators.
Yeah. And I think, I'm not sure exactly, Meredith, if this was your question, but the Supervisory Union Board has been the controlling board in terms of protocols and procedures going all the way back to the first emergency order that the governor announced back in 2020. And the reason for that is that we have a unified staff contract for both support staff and for professional staff. So whatever we do in one building, we have to do in another building. So the boards have relied on the Supervisory Union Board to make these kinds of decisions. This is a unique decision because it does involve, you know, a state lifting of a mandate. That's why we're discussing it tonight. Up until now, the board has authorized, and this was a while ago, the board authorized the superintendent, which was me, on the advice of the COVID task force, to make any and all decisions. We still do that now, but I felt we had to discuss this tonight because there was going to be, as you can see tonight, some public pressure to use the February 28th date as the date to make masks optional. And that's all I need. All I need to know from the Supervisory Union Board tonight is that, at least at present, you agree with the COVID task force that we go slowly. We look at some of the other issues that we think are even a little bit more important, like opening up, you know, theater programs and field trip programs and crossing paths and cafeterias, and I'm not saying we wait months, but I'm saying we get that part done, because February 28th, by the way, is Monday, and I don't think there's anybody on that COVID task force or anybody, at least in the staff interviews, that think it should happen that fast. So that's all the direction I need from the board tonight. Is are we okay with where we are right now? And
no, we should take the mandate off all the way, not little by little.
Excuse me, this is a meeting of the board. Thank you.
Our children go to your school though, right? And
this is about the kids. It's about the kids.
This is a meeting of the board.
It's a meeting of the board.
When
don't about the kids.
And we are making this decision based on information. And Scott, I see your hand raised. There are a number of hands raised, Scott. Thank you. But we will make this decision based on information from our COVID task force, as well as our administrative and teaching staff. And basing our decision on positivity could also allow for differences between buildings as well. So that is where we're leaning at the moment. And Bill.
I really don't care about these people.
Are we ready for me now? I at this point, I think I'm more willing down the line to discuss what to do about the masks. But at this point, I don't feel comfortable voting tonight to change the path that we've been on. I really look forward to the time in which students can go to school, not have masks on, to be able to enunciate, to be able to see the teacher, to be able to do all that. But I think there's a time and a place to make transitions, and an arbitrary date of February 28th, in which the state has lifted a mandate, a recommendation, is not a catalyst to change course. And I know emotions run high. There's a lot of emotions behind this, but the simple fact that our responsibility on this board is not just to the education of the children, it's also for their safety. And yes, that's our main responsibility, but we are also responsibility to the adults in the building. So I don't think, Amy, I don't think we need to vote on anything tonight. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Catherine Engel.
Hi, I was wondering if we could hear the results of Angie's survey of the staff and faculty.
That is a wonderful idea. When David mentioned it, I thought, oh, we should hear that. Angie, are you still here, and can you share that information?
Yes, I can. Hang on a moment, and I will share my screen. This was data taken earlier this afternoon for a survey that we put out to our faculty over the weekend and our support staff on Monday. We had 193 staff responses to the question, should WSESU discontinue the masking requirement in our schools after February 28th if we are close to 80% vaccinated? The survey response was yes at 35 and almost 36%, no at 41%, not sure at almost 11%, and 12% fine either way. I tried to encapsulate some of the comments that people emailed me. There were six individuals that emailed me, and this summarizes some of the comments. One teacher did ask her high school students how they felt about the masks, and their concern was that if it meant that kids would be able to stay in school if they were masked, because they were worried that if they were unmasked, other children would be positive and not be able to be in school. They don't want to see a spike in cases after removing masks. That teacher also shared the idea that close to 80% is ambiguous. I had a few staff say they weren't comfortable saying yes to that question or no to that question because it was not more specific. And then there were many questions about how, well, in the 6 responses, how the 80% would be calculated for a building. Would it be, what would happen if say a building total was 80%, but my classroom was only 12%? Or how would we do it, for example, in our pre-K 12 school where students eligible for vaccinations varies across the building. There's concern that lifting the mask mandate would have more students missing school, and concern for staff who see multiple grade levels in a day. Do remember that we have specials teachers who do serve multiple grade levels. Some may see as many as 5, 6, or 7 grade levels in a day. Thank you. That's all I have, Amy.
Thank you, Angie. Next, with their hand raised, is Meredith Kelly.
Sorry, I just wanted to go back to my question about who's making the decision. I believe, Amy, you mentioned everybody but parents and who's making the decision. I just wanted to confirm that. Also, this was not on the agenda, if I'm correct. So parents did not have an opportunity or fully warned that this was going to be on the agenda tonight. So I think there probably are others out there that would like to listen in on this conversation.
Well, the recording will be up on the website. Also, we're not voting on this. It's a discussion. And we will be having the discussion further, even if we have to have a special meeting after all of the town meetings, or before our reorganization for the SU meeting towards the end of March. Next hand raised is Caitlin Gould.
Sorry, I didn't figure out how to use my microphone. I just have questions. Dr. Baker, I know you had mentioned that and I don't know, Angie, if you could answer this too, as you being on the task force, had mentioned some of like the step down protocol that you guys are starting to think about. Is that something that you can share with us so that as a parent, I can make an informed decision, or have a informed opinion, I guess, on my thoughts about what the school is doing to support my child who is doesn't enjoy wearing a mask, does have some social barriers around that as well, and is just really, really struggling, as it being her first year in a public, as a kindergartner, her first year in school, and this experience, it is really taking a toll on her mental health and her social well-being in school. So, if you could just kind of touch on what your thought is on your process of kind of opening things back up. And just, another point that my husband and I were kind of talking about is, although we really, you guys were talking about, wanting to see, how Claremont operates with the mask mandate no longer being there. I think it's important too to recognize that many local businesses within the area that have much more staff than the SAU have opened up and are no longer requiring masks. Hypertherm being one of them, which is a very large corporation in the area that has a large population of people traveling in and out as well. I work in the Claremont area. I see what that is, and I think it's important to recognize that the two communities that you're thinking about comparing are very different as well in the way that schools are run and in just the community populations as well. So just when you think about comparing the two, I think taking into consideration, what exactly is being compared. And then I think, if we can just as a group and as the public kind of be made aware of, you say you're not voting today, but, when will this vote happen? I understand that Monday is coming quick. And I think that it is a high emotion, topic, but if, as parents, if we can be made aware and as a public, be made aware of when you're thinking this vote will occur, I think would set a lot of people at ease. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, Scott Richardson.
Thank you, Amy. I was going to take up the conversation back to David's mention of the policy, the modes of instructions during COVID-19. And I was just reading it while this discussion was happening, and it's got an important bullet that says that it automatically sunsets when the, well, David knows what I'm talking about, when the state of emergency is over. So it's obviously not a functioning policy right now. But most of all, I guess I just wanted to bring our attention back to, how important it is that the board support the administrators. And it's sometimes really hard when the administrators speak of the responsibility of the board, and the board sometimes leans on the administrators, and especially our superintendent as our chief operating officer. And sometimes it's confusing for the community, but the community doesn't want the school districts to schools to be run differently, every town meeting day when board members come and go. So that's why we have administrators. And I think that it's Bill's spot on that we shouldn't have a vote tonight. That would be my opinion too. I'm not sure a vote is necessary at any time, but we need our superintendent to know what we think as trustees of the communities. That's it.
Thank you, Scott. And we are certainly hearing loud and clear from the parents who are attending this meeting that they would like to see masks off of their children. And we are working towards in that direction, but it's not going to happen overnight. And there's more to take into consideration. There's health of all the children. And there are a number of parents who feel that it's important that their child, as well as their classmates, wear a mask when they attend school. And we have people on both sides. We have people who have had themselves vaccinated. We have had people who say, absolutely not. There's so much division over this, and we do care about the children in our community. We care deeply, or we would not be here this evening. We care deeply about the health and well-being of our staff and administrators as well. There is so much more to this than just whether or not on March 1st, your child will or will not be wearing a mask. Caitlin Gould.
Yeah, I'm just, the questions that I had, nobody kind of stood up to answer them. So I'm just curious if those could be answered.
Yeah, that's why I had my hand up, Caitlin. I wanted to make sure I realized we didn't answer your questions. And I'll do this really quickly just because we've got so many online. The simple answer is no, we don't have a formal step down plan yet, but we just started talking about it today. I don't think it's going to take long to create one. I would guess maybe within the next week we could have that step down plan ready and certainly produce it to our board members and then eventually to our community. I think what we all have to realize is we were on vacation last week. And a matter of fact, right before vacation is when we learned that the governor, we did not know, we thought that the mask mandate might be extended for another month, at least till we got by these vacations and got to better weather. But we were as surprised as everybody else. And I'm not saying it wasn't a good decision by the governor. I mean, and I don't even know yet what the governor will do exactly on the 28th. I think there's a news conference scheduled, but it did catch us off guard. So we weren't ready really to put into play, a concrete step down plan. We knew we would have to eventually, and we want to do it eventually, but we just want to do it carefully. So that's the simple answer, Caitlin. But I don't think it's going to be months. I think it's going to be weeks. And then, like Amy said, we'll either have a special supervisory union board meeting to discuss the step down plan. If the board doesn't take a vote tonight, and I agree they should not, then everything will be status quo going forward. But that doesn't mean that we're not working very hard on a step down plan, which will include some of the things I mentioned earlier, and get us hopefully, I'd like to say by the end of March, certainly no later than the beginning of April, to where we might want to pilot going to mask choice. Because remember, eliminating the mask mandate doesn't mean kids and adults can't wear masks. They can still wear masks. It's just that you won't be mandated to wear masks to come into the building, and that's a big decision that we want to make carefully and thoughtfully.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. And I just, it is kind of, hurts my heart a little bit to hear you say that you thought that, they were going to extend the mask mandate for Vermont. I think that just, it kind of gives you a little bit of a bias. And I don't want to, come off as rude or anything like that, but, just thinking as a parent, and as somebody who does, watch the news and the science of it all, but to hear you say that you thought it was going to be extended versus just listening to the facts that came out, that is a little disheartening. And knowing that we as parents and as a community, we don't have a say. But as to any, people on this meeting, I also just want to make a point that the parents that have put a lot of things in the chat that are upset about not being able or not feeling like they're feeling heard or that their voice matters is, when town voting day comes up, that is your chance to really make a change and take into consideration, who is on this board and are those people going to be hearing your voice and willing to speak up to you. So thank you.
Thank you. Bill Yates.
I know we have of course, another meeting. We have to set an agenda as well, but I think it might be a really good idea to actually get a parent survey to see an opinion of what parents have about masking, not just the several individuals that showed up here tonight, and their opinion. I mean, because with 1,200 students, the quick math is you've got 2,400 parents out there with opinions. So I don't know, Angie, if that's something that you'd be willing to take on, or maybe Larry. I think it would be good to hear basically very straightforward. And I agree with Amy 100%. Just get away from, vaccinations in the survey. What do parents feel about masking in school? Very simple. And then take that into consideration and have that data, for the next meeting. The other thing is sort of reading some of the comments that keep popping up. I want to point out that in loco parentis is a legal term in which the school district is substitute parents legally for when students are in school. That is our legal responsibility. And I respect what parents want for their children, but at the same time, we have that responsibility when they are at school. We are legally responsible for them in substitute of their parents. That's what the term means. And so we take that role. I know all the administrators, the teachers take that role very seriously to look out for the safety of schools. And I just wanted to point that out, even though it's quite clear popping up that not everyone agrees with me or understands what I'm saying. But yeah, I'd love my son to be able to take off his mask, but he handles it pretty well his first year in school. Most students do handle it well. Not all, but most do. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, and Amy, just to answer Bill's question, yes, that is part of our plan to survey our parents. You know, I think that's important. We just want to make sure we put the survey together correctly, because even the staff survey didn't do everything we wanted it to do. So we just want to think about that. But that'll happen by the end of the week, beginning of next week. We'll get that data. That's part of what we want to know.
Great, thank you. Carrie Jewell.
Yes, thank you. I'm just wondering if Angie is able to share the data of the survey per school district through each school, sorry.
No, I am not. I did not ask for staff to identify the school. I mean, so it's a sorting thing. I could take the 193 and sort it by the where I know they work, but that would take me probably a couple hours.
Is that something that we could have at a future meeting or via email?
That would be up to Dr. Baker.
Yeah, we could consider that, Carrie. I'm not sure what that would give us, since it's going to be an SU decision, but we could do that. I mean, if you think there's some value in that.
I think if it is done, and I'm not saying it should be done, I think moving away from the 80% portion of it, because I think that was a major portion of the survey, rightfully so, because at the time of the survey, that was the biggest guideline, one of the biggest factors within what the state was saying. But seeing the mandates gone, and will be gone, and the fact that the 80%, because it's tied to that mandate, will be gone, then it'd be interesting to hear what teachers say about just masking, regardless of what the vaccination rate is.
Thank you, Bill. Anne Marie.
Thanks, Amy. I also just wanted to bring up, of course, what Bill said is totally true, that we are legally responsible for the children, not just sitting here on the board, but we are also legally responsible to our taxpayers and to their money. And I don't know if Dr. Baker could go into it a bit, but I seem to recall that our insurance company will not cover lawsuits related to COVID. So if someone was to get COVID in one of our schools and we had relaxed policy and someone thought it was too soon that we relaxed our policies, we could legally be sued and our taxpayers would have to pay for that. Our insurance company would not.
Yeah, Anne Marie's correct. We were given written notice by our insurance company that they, you know, based on our protocols, and they've had to approve all of our protocols, that they wouldn't cover any COVID-related liability suit. Should anybody say that it was because we either didn't follow the protocol or we didn't have the right protocol. So, and that's again why this is so quick, right? We haven't had time really to go back to our risk management company. We don't even have the guidance from the agency yet. That's really critical. I'm expecting it soon, but all we've got is the understanding that the date is February 28th for when the last mask mandate sunsets. But that's why I think we've just got more work to do in the next couple of weeks here.
Thank you, David. Davis, and then Molly Matson.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. I appreciate what Bill mentioned earlier about the possibility of doing some sort of parent survey. I think it was Bill that said that. I apologize, I'm misattributing that. But I mean, I think sounding out the parents in our supervisory union, sounding out students. I mean, I want to hear from the population that this board is serving. And that's the best way I think that we can get that information. I think that having seen in this meeting and in other local meetings where this topic's come up, and the kind of discourse around that, something that I see over and over again is this idea that the meetings themselves aren't accessible, or it's unclear when they're happening. And I think that that's really valuable feedback, because to me, if there's the perception that it's hard to find these meetings or it's hard to find ways to attend, I want as many people as possible to attend these meetings, to have their voice heard. I mean, that's a big part of why we do this. So I know that as a board member, I don't have as much ability to directly do that, put the rubber to the road in getting those communications out. But I think it's always a good opportunity to look at how our board meeting announcements are going out, what modes and methods of communication we're using to make sure that people are aware, because it is vitally important. And I know that folks do a lot, but I think that, even when I hear just the perception that there's, things are being kept secret or we don't want people to participate, I know that personally that is the very opposite of my goal on the board. So, I think just taking a look, seeing if there's anything else that can be done, I think that that's always a valuable thing to do.
Thank you, Davis. Molly Matson.
Hi everyone. So I think you are hearing the population that you are all serving. And I think you would hear even more if this meeting, if this topic actually, it's kind of conveniently added to tonight's meeting rather than tomorrow night, which a lot of people were notified about. However, it was spur of the moment that we found out about it tonight. So you are hearing the population you're serving, and you would hear even more. However, you guys have gone round and round. You've gone with needing the school vaccination rate to be up to 80% for masks to be able to be removed. Well, that didn't happen. So here we go, round and round again. This kind of sounds familiar with the whole sports spectator thing. We opened up to some, not to others. Junior high totally got, kind of screwed out of that deal. Got to see the last 2 games. That's not fair. And then as far as, parents are clearly speaking out, and it should be an optional to wear masks. And what really bothers me is that my 13-year-old doesn't have a problem wearing a mask, not because she's afraid of COVID in the air she's breathing, but more of an image issue that, it's covering their face. They don't have to show their facial expressions. That's the world we're living in now. Are we changing our culture? It's a little, I think this is crazy. And again, we've spent how much time discussing this, going round and round. You are hearing the parents speak out. I think you need to take a look at what we're saying and have a little, I think you should count our opinion towards what's happening, because you are taking care of our kids. You spend more time with our kids than we do ourselves, because we're at work providing for our children. So you are hearing us. So please take that into consideration, and everybody go out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. And so just a clarification, the meeting tomorrow night is the information meeting for the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board. And that has been warned, oh my gosh, probably about a month ago. And that has a very strict protocol as far as the way the items in that meeting are discussed. There's a moderator who calls the meeting to order, and we go down from article to article to article. And it is, I believe, Article 9 that it is open for any items that could be discussed on the floor of a town information meeting. The rest of the items on that article deal with the budget, and they will be voted on Tuesday from 9 until 7. And the reason this was added to this meeting tonight, as opposed to being warned is earlier, is because this meeting was warned a week ago prior to vacation. And prior to vacation, we weren't all aware that the governor was going to have his press conference where he discussed lifting mask mandates. So thank you. And Bill Yates. You're muted, Bill.
I've been paying attention to the chat here, and I'm a data guy, as you all know, and I have no problem surveying the students as well. You know, having their input on how they feel about masks will just help us to understand their perception. But I also want to talk about, you know, a comment that was made earlier that we are hearing from parents and our constituents. And our constituents, you know, what's our 10,000 basic constituents? Because public schools are not just for parents and for students. Public schools are made for society and the community. And, you know, I would like to hear from more people than just the basic 10 individuals who are in the chat, and the few individuals who have expressed their opinion. I'd like to know more, you know, before I say that this is what this is what parents and people of Windsor and West Windsor want. I don't know what they want. You know, there's so far only 12 people have participated in the chat. And some more people have participated in the discussion. This is just a very small sample size. I'd like to hear more.
Thank you, Bill. At a certain point, we do have the rest of our agenda that we need to get to. I will name the people off whose hands are currently raised, and we will go through those names. And then we do have to move on with our agenda because this is a regularly scheduled meeting. And first of all, I want to thank all of the parents who have attended this meeting and who have provided us with their insight as to how they are feeling and how their children are feeling. And we will certainly take that into consideration when decisions are made regarding masks. And so the names that are up right now, and that will be the end of this item on the agenda. We have Meredith Kelly, followed by Caitlin Gould, followed by Elizabeth Burrows, followed by unknown. Meredith Kelly.
Hi, this is actually Patrick Kelly. We're using the same computer. Bill, I'm surprised that you haven't heard from more people. I think I don't think that's going to be a concern. I think you're going to hear a lot of people speaking out about this. My question, and I think some people in the district might be in other schools other than Wethersfield. We have 2 kids in Wethersfield school, but you might be surprised to learn that they are wearing masks outside. And I just want to know, I really want to know from everybody on the board, does somebody think that's a good idea? Like, where is that coming from, that decision to have our kids wear masks outside when I don't think anybody else on earth is doing that, you know, by choice or in a public setting or in a business? Where is that coming from? And I think it needs to stop. That is a decision that could be made overnight rather than kicking it down the line a couple months, because it's absolutely ridiculous. So I'd like answers.
It's my understanding, Mr. Kelly, that and I met with the principal at Weathersfield today. He's part of the task force. And that was an unfortunate confusion because that was not part of our protocol. Masks outside were never required according to our protocol. So it's my understanding, and somebody from Weathersfield can correct me if I'm wrong, that effective today, that has stopped, and it's stopped in all of our buildings. That outside, this is also clearly not part of the step down because it was never really a universal protocol, but we really need to stop that. And my understanding is it has stopped. If somebody wants to correct me on that, they can, but I think that you are absolutely right.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and chime in, Dr. Baker. This is Brian Martis, principal at Weathersfield School. And yes, we did have that discussion today at our staff meeting, and that practice and some of the other things have been loosened up at the school. So that has been taken care of and rectified.
I appreciate it if it's still with me. I won't take up a ton of time here. I appreciate the answers and I appreciate you addressing that. I just want to quickly address something that was said earlier about this not just being about the kids, but being about the community at large and families. I just want to point out that everybody, almost everybody 5 years old and up has the opportunity to get vaccinated. They have the opportunity to protect themselves, to wear masks if they choose to. We can't ask these kids to be responsible for everybody on earth. At some point, this has to stop. You know, you're asking them to do too much. If you want to wear a mask in school, great. You know, and nobody is saying that. If the masks work, if the vaccinations work, then that's beautiful. We're glad. You know, our family has been following the guidelines for almost 2 years, but at some point, enough's enough. And we've, you know, it seems like we've been following, or we've been told that people are following the state guidelines, the education guidelines. Their mask mandate ends Monday. All of a sudden, we're not going to follow them. Why?
Okay, thank you. Caitlin Gould.
Yeah, so I just want to circle back to something that Bill had said, that he wants to hear from the public. So Bill, what would be the best way for community members and the public to share their opinion with you? If these meetings are, time is very limited for some people, and I feel like a lot of opinions were put in the chat. So what would be the best way to formally reach out to the board members about our opinion on some of these matters? And then I also just want to make a comment on something that Dr. Baker just said, that masks not being required outside at any point in time. They were required outside. I just want to correct you on that after Christmas vacation. That was the one thing my daughter came back with after Christmas vacation, asking her, how her day was. And that was like the one thing she said is we couldn't take our masks off even when we were outside, and they had to wear their masks for the week after vacation. So I just wanted to...
Yeah, Caitlin, you're absolutely right. And that's when the positivity was through the roof, and we were sending 25 to 30 kids home a day. So you're absolutely right. And we did it for a week, but it stopped after that, but you're absolutely right. That's why positivity is critical.
So Caitlin addressed me personally. So Caitlin, my email address is on the SU site, and anybody is welcome to email me. I also would look forward to a parent, and even I really look forward to a parent survey to be able to look at many numbers, not just those who thankfully would take the time to email me. So that's how I would look forward to hearing from parents through my, SU email and from a survey. I read all my emails. I read emails all day long, but I'm a data guy. I'd like to see data, and either it's anecdotal if parents want to email me, or from a survey. And I think Mr. Kelly mentioned something that I was going to write about what Mr. Kelly is talking about is the endemic, where this just moves on and COVID becomes a just another respiratory illness. And I look forward to that day. I agree with you. We need to get to there.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Elizabeth, you had your hand raised. Did you still want to?
Oh, I was just actually going to remind you that you don't have to hear from people more than twice, including me.
Correct. Thank you. And after Elizabeth's hand went down, Alan Howard, well, unknown's hand went down, and then Alan Howard's hand came up. So I will hear from Alan Howard, and then we have to move on with the agenda. Alan Howard.
Hi, yes. It's hard to go last because a lot of the other parents have basically been saying a lot of my feelings. I had a whole speech of data and studies, and I'm not going to bore you with that because when Molly, I believe Molly mentioned something about when she asked her child how she felt about the mask. I could be wrong on which parent, doesn't matter. I asked my daughter that, I believe this morning, and she's like, it's okay. But I said, are you afraid of catching COVID? What are you afraid of? She goes, no, I like to hide my face. And I'm like, why? You're beautiful. And that got me onto the part of what I was going to say after the whole boring part of all this data and things. The negative impacts that this is having on the reduction of ability to communicate, and in particular, loss of mimicking expressions and the essential tools of nonverbal communication. To be able to understand positive emotions such as laughing and smiling become less recognizable. Negative emotions get amplified. It's also been shown it's likely exacerbates the chances a child will experience anxiety and depression, which are already at high pandemic levels now. And this isolation, I was so disappointed that she wanted to be like hiding herself, really more than she wasn't afraid of COVID or anything like that. And I'm just wondering, with the children having, and even everybody being able to have vaccines and therapeutics and all this knowledge, and now the Omicron variant was more susceptible, but yes, is less deadly, all this and that. Is it really worth all this other negative on something that's really, what do the kids have? Over a 99.9% survival rate of something? That's just my question. I keep going on and on over and over again. The negative impacts that we don't talk about. We're always talking about catching COVID and death and this and that, but what is it really doing to our kids? I don't want to take any more time, but that's just my final thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, we have, I want to thank all of the parents who have attended this meeting and who have spoken out and provided your thoughts and your concerns for yourselves and for your children. And we certainly take all of that information into consideration when we make decisions. Moving to our next item is the FY23 calendar and Friday early release days.
Yeah, the more I think about that item, and given again the time, that's going to take a little bit of discussion, and it might be good too. We've got some new members coming on the SU board, so I'm okay moving that agenda item to our meeting in March, unless anybody has an objection. There's no rush on that.
Bill, you're muted.
That's a pretty important topic. So I agree with David. That should take some time.
Right. Okay. Elizabeth, your hand is raised also.
I was just going to say, Amy, that maybe it'd be a good idea to push all of the first readings to our next meeting, because we potentially we won't have Scott We'll,
I know.
we will potentially have, some new members here. So,
Okay.
but please leave room. That's my special request, is because I came in late and I didn't get to be part of the public comment or announcements. And please leave room at the end of the meeting to fawn over Scott. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So let me see. I think, how about I will take a motion that we set aside the policy discussions until our meeting when there has been reorganization.
So moved.
I'll second.
Who was, oh, that was Nikki? Okay. And I will do a roll call. So let me see. I wrote down all of our board members who are here. Anne Marie?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Colleen Spence, are you still with us?
I'm here. Aye.
Ah, wonderful. Thank you. Davis?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy? Nancy Pedrick might have left us. Rebecca?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
And I, Amy, vote aye. So
You forgot me, Amy. You forgot me. Nikki.
who?
Nikki. Aye.
Nikki, how did I miss you?
You snuck in.
I don't know why. Yeah, you snuck in.
And Nancy
Sorry.
comes.
Yeah, Nancy votes yes. She's mimicking it in her little photograph there.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you. So it is unanimous. Thank you so much. So that reduces the length of our meeting considerably. Moving on, the equity audit.
Yeah, so I sent out under a separate cover the request for proposal. We had the opportunity to partner with Springfield. That still may not happen, but I wanted to get the authority from this board to get the request for proposals out. We have several companies that we can send these to. And so I just didn't know if people had any comments on the actual RFP that I had sent out. If not, then I think it is ready. I think it is ready to go. I can put the actual, in case you can't find it right away. I can try to put the link to the audit proposal in the chat. I see Rebecca's hand. I think Amy, you might be muted.
I was muted. Oh, Rebecca.
Hi, David. I did have a couple of questions, but I think you answered one of them already. I was asking what was holding up Springfield, and you commented on because there's been a change maybe in administration. So the second question was, is this proposal in line with what Vermont School Board has put out or is asking of their schools?
That's a great question, Rebecca. And actually it is, because we use the Vermont School Boards Association and the group that they've been working with to help us draft this proposal. So it's very much in line because they helped us put it together, quite frankly.
Thanks. Great.
Bill, your hand is raised.
Yeah, thank you. This is delightfully simplistic, David. I like it. I would like to see, and maybe you have it ready, is to be able to see the summarization of Springfield School District as well in the beginning, in case they do. So we could see the Springfield School District, blah, 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 sort of similar to the Windsor Southeast Supervisories as well. Do you have that done, or?
No.
So you've got the background, but you didn't include any background.
Yeah,
for
no,
the Springfield
that
School District.
you know, the original meetings that I was having with Zach, and then Zach got caught up in quite frankly, and rightly so, in candidating for his jobs and employment next year. That stopped, and in reaching out to him over vacation, you know, we weren't able to link up. So, but he would put that information in there, and I could certainly, before we finally send it out, if in fact, you know, because I'm assuming we meet on Friday, and I'm assuming that at that point we'll make a decision to fish or cut bait with them. And I think we can do this. We have the financial wherewithal to do this on our own. But I'll resend it if in fact he puts that data in there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. What would be the consequence of us tabling this until we have word from Springfield?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly could do that. All that would mean is if you go down to the very bottom of the proposal, you'll see a timeline, right? And the timeline, just because this is such an undertaking, and some of the folks we've talked about that helped us put this together, that know about these kinds of audits, say that a lot of these things can be done remotely, so they're not too worried about that. But I think we'd still have time. We would just move those dates down the bottom up a little bit, but we'd continue to, I think, have the start date be July 1 or August 1, 22. That would be the only consequence, Amy.
Okay, thank you. Elizabeth, your hand is raised.
Well, on the other hand, by July 1st, Zach won't be here but among us anymore. He'll be among the living, but living somewhere else. And so, you know, in a sense, it doesn't matter whether Springfield is with us or not, because if we waited, 1 month is, of course, always 2 months this time of year, because the March meeting isn't the March meeting. So if we wait until April, it's as good as waiting until June, which is the end of Zach's contract. The new person won't be coming in. And so, you know, I think I vote we do it whether Zach's with us or not.
I agree with Elizabeth. I think we should give approval to this regardless of if Springfield's in or not, so that once we get an indication that Springfield's in or not, David could move forward regardless.
And I think that's, after I said that, I started thinking, wait a minute, Amy, geez. So I could take a motion that we accept this RFP.
So moved, as long as it's understood that if Springfield wants to join us, then they will, and it'll be written as such. And if Springfield doesn't want to join us, then the Springfield will be removed, and we will move forward without Springfield. So moved.
And I can put that in the body of the motion, quite frankly. Who's making the motion? I'm taking minutes here as well, but who's making the motion?
Bill.
Bill. Okay.
Second.
And a second?
Second.
That was Davis.
That was Davis. Okay.
Yes, thank you. So I will go down the line. Or is there further discussion on this? Sorry.
Don't forget Nikki.
I've got Nikki on my list. Anne Marie?
I just wanted to make sure that the cost for this is being covered with ESSER funds, or
Yeah,
who's
that's that.
we
Right,
paying?
yeah, that's a good point, Anne Marie. That's the plan right now. Yep, that this would all be covered through ESSER funds, because we had put money for equity into the ESSER agreement, including hiring the DEI coordinator, but we're now a year and a half out, so we've got money left in there. I mean, we'll have to sort that out certainly with Angie and the ESSER funds, but that is exactly the plan.
Thank you. Davis?
Yeah, I only have to say that I think this is a tight document that I think gets us the information that we need to have, and I'm just happy to see this process start to move forward. So thanks for putting this together.
It is exciting, and you're right. I think we need to move forward. Are people ready to vote? Okay, starting with Anne Marie.
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Colleen?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy? Is she saying aye? Okay. Nikki?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
And Amy is aye. Great. Thank you, everyone. Next, there was the special education. David, and Katie, did we need to vote on that?
We need to. The state's requiring that we, adopt that manual essentially, or we create our own manual. And we did not want to reinvent the wheel. It's very thorough, almost too thorough. So that it would be nice to have a motion to adopt the special ed procedures as recommended by the state of Vermont.
Yeah, just so everyone know, I have read it, and it's pretty tight. It's well written. I did have one question about the residential placement piece, and maybe Katie, if she's still here, can answer that. Is that something new that the secretary can create a residential placement task force for each residential suggestion?
It is not new.
Okay.
It has been part of it. It's one of those things that unless you have to go looking for it and know about it, you don't know that it exists. And it actually, as I have found out, sometimes only involves one person. But yes,
Okay.
that is real.
Okay. I'm not doubting it, but that's the one thing that stood out to me as something that I wasn't aware of. But overall, I'd have to say we just adopt this. It's tight, it's well written, and if we try to reinvent something else, we're just going to mess it up.
I couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Bill, because that's exactly the general feeling of all the special ed directors that are in the same position. And as you saw me nodding my head vigorously when we said if we need this, we have till March 15th that I have to submit a signature page saying that you've adopted it. And technically, we have it in policy, but you've adopted something that you never saw. And so I wanted to make sure that we can then show these meeting notes. So on March 15th, when I turn in all of my monitoring and all the stuff, we don't get dinged because the AOE has said there are not going to be extensions, even though we just physically got this.
So I would like to move that we adopt this.
I'll second.
Was that Nikki?
Yep.
Okay. Rebecca, you have your hand raised.
I also read it, and I have to agree that it is pretty tight. But I did want to ask Katie a question. I just wanted to be clear. Did I hear you say earlier that our residential placement went from 40 to 19?
Not just residential, are out of district placements. We have a combination of students who may be in residential placements, and almost all of those are a joint mental health school, or Department of Children and Family Services for those, and students at therapeutic day programs or other programs that are day programs that we don't run. So it's a combination of those. And our numbers just keep coming down because we're not sending, as well as so students are matriculating out. So
I'd
that
like to thank Katie for the work that she's done. Okay,
agree.
because 40 is way above what would be expected of a district of our size, and now we're back to what would be expected. 19 would kind of be what you would expect of a district of this size. So, Katie, thank you very much. You've done a fantastic job.
You're welcome. We're still over what this AOE and the feds say we're supposed to. So is almost everybody else.
Yes.
But it's I appreciate it, and it's a joint effort. There's a lot of people involved. It's not just me. Very much an effort.
Thank you, Katie. Davis, your hand is
Yeah,
raised.
yeah. I just want to quickly underscore how wonderful it is to hear too that have increased and are in the process of further increasing our capacity to, to keep students in inclusion in our district as well. I mean, that's just hugely important. Obviously out of district placements come up and sometimes they're very necessary, but it really makes me happy to hear that our district is focused on that and keeping our students in our local schools and with their peers, because it really makes a huge difference. So thank you.
Thank you, Davis. Are there any other comments, or are we ready to vote? This is to adopt the manual.
Let me read the motion.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Yeah, the motion by Bill and seconded by Nikki that we adopt the Special Education Procedures Manual as recommended by the state of Vermont.
Thank you. Beginning with Anne Marie.
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Colleen?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy? I'll take that as an aye. Nikki?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
And I, Amy, vote aye. So thank you very much. And Nancy has no audio, so thank you, Nancy. And thank you, Katie, for your work. We are up to our favorite part is setting the next agenda. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is, I believe it was March 28th.
Yeah, March 28th. And as Bill said earlier, if we feel we need one sooner than that, because, we have a more formal kind of step down plan, we'll let you know. But March 28th is the next scheduled date.
Okay, thank you.
And that'll be our organizational meeting as well. So that should be item number 1.
Right.
We'll put the policies back on.
Okay, policies.
Calendar release days. And we also have that recovery and data report.
recovery and data.
It's Mary.
Can we
And
put it
Mary,
on
yeah,
Pastor 3?
right.
Can we put our Pastor 3 plan? I will probably have submitted something by then. I think I have to submit a link, like not the formal plan, but that we have our COVID protocols or something on the website. Can't remember exactly, but I'll give the board an update. David, I think that day, aren't you in San Diego?
That's a good question, right?
March 28th? Yeah,
That
March 28th.
that is the date that I am there, and so that would mean that I was hoping anyhow that we could, Angie is a licensed superintendent. Usually if I'm gone that long, I would just announce to the district, as long as the supervisory union board is okay with that she would be in place. We could either move to the week before that, or Angie could handle it, or in these virtual conditions that we live today, I could probably be at the meeting virtually.
So where are you going to be, David?
I'm going to be in San Diego at that equity, deeper learning equity.
Yeah.
Cohort
So
meeting.
I would imagine that 6:30 our time will put you in the middle of your conference, San Diego time.
Yeah. What are they? Are they behind?
They're
always
3 hours
behind, or
behind.
Right. So it would be 3:30.
Yeah. Yeah. And Angie, we love you, but would it hurt your feelings if we tried to move it to the 21st?
Not at all. Not at all.
Plus, that might also give us that puts us a little ahead of the game in terms of making final decisions on, on the mask step down procedures and all of those pieces. So we can give an update on that as well.
I know I brought the two things up of doing a parental survey as well as doing a student survey. Do you guys think that's possible?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Something just really simple.
Yeah, really simple. And we had planned to do it with parents. We hadn't talked about students yet. So, we'll have that conversation, but, I don't know about, it would be probably age appropriate, maybe, in terms of how we do that. But I think we could get some feedback from students. Yes.
Yeah. I think it'd be great to get those voices.
Yeah. So
we're going to move it?
Yes, we are. To March 21st at 6:30.
Yeah. And believe it or not, I actually would like to be there. So if people can get word out that I am actually running, I apologize for my lack of vision in getting paperwork done. So
we don't hold that against you, Bill.
Oh, you shouldn't, because my wife does.
Bill, just to let you know, if you have people who can stand far enough away from the entrance of a building with your name on it for school board,
okay,
you're allowed to do that. They cannot be inside the building, but they can stand a reasonable distance away from the building.
I'll talk to my siblings and I'll let them know you can run for school board unless you stand out with a sign with my name on it.
You get them to vote, we're going to be fine. I think that's good.
And
Amy, the other thing I want to say to
and
the
in
public,
both places, sorry, but both West Windsor and Windsor.
Yeah.
David, yes.
No, I was just going to say to the public, since we're moving the meeting to the 21st, because I know we had a lot of people on here, and now we will make the, masking protocol update an official part of that agenda. So we'll get that word out. Amy was right. We just didn't anticipate it right before vacation. So the agenda was out. It was posted on the website, and that's why we had to add it tonight. We're not allowed to add it once it's posted. So we'll take care of that. And I put Mary Gannon on too.
Elizabeth.
Do you think, I really think that having the masking thing should be a separate meeting. I do, because I think we're going to, because this is a reorganizational meeting with an agenda on top of that. And
Good
I
point.
think it's a terrible mistake.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Maybe a masking update.
No, I think we should.
No.
We can
Okay.
have another meeting. We can have a separate meeting.
Okay.
And that'll allow us to give the mask issue its due time. I mean, it needs to have more time and not be cut short.
The challenge, it will have to be after our reorganization.
Correct.
Yep.
Or we have our reorganization and mask information, and then all the rest goes to a different meeting. Is that too many things to think about? Too many variables? It is for me.
Yeah, I don't want to wait long. I don't, because the public is interested in it. People have spoken. People have actually come to the meeting and spoken, which is something we've been asking for. And so I'm not disagreeing with Elizabeth that say it should be another meeting, or the other way around. We do reorganization and mask. Either one of those is fine with me, but we can't wait another month to address this.
Oh, no, of course not.
Right.
No.
I know you're not saying that, Elizabeth, but yeah.
Well, there is
No, I'm just saying, I mean, if we get into another place where we have, the reorganization and all of the agenda that we weren't able to attend to tonight, and a discussion about the mask mandate, which has been properly advertised to people, it's going to be a meeting that I don't want to attend because it's going to be long.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
Is it okay? Let me throw. Is it possible to do a reorganized meeting on the 15th, and that's it?
On the 15th,
and then do an actual school board meeting.
The only thing we have to make sure is that all boards have met, because when you have your reorganization meetings at the local level, you'll appoint your SU members, right? So
Right.
when is the last board meeting? In March.
Heartland's going to have to meet twice because we're meeting on the 1st before people are officially elected. And so we're meeting under the regular board on the 1st, and then people will be certified in the election on the 2nd. And then we'll have to meet again to reorganize prior to meeting on the 15th. So Heartland could be looking at four meetings.
Whose idea was that? No, I'm only kidding. So what we could do, I'm looking now, Mount Escutney is on the 7th. Weathersfield is on the 8th. If Heartland could go the 9th or the 10th, we'd have all those done by the time Bill stated we reorganize, which would be the 15th or the 4th. I think it would be the 14th at that point. And we could try to do as much as we could get done on surveys. And, I like what somebody suggested, do the organization and some of these agenda items and then do masking separately. I think that's a good idea. So
the more that we talk about it, the more I think that it might be a good idea to do just the reorganization and the mask stuff on one night.
Okay.
I think that's a really good idea, actually.
Okay.
And that could be on the 14th.
I'd like to push that back.
On the 14th, and then that'll make members of the public have to sit through the organizational part, because we really can't have the discussion without having the organizational part.
Right. But at the same time, Elizabeth, I agree with you. Either way, it really doesn't matter to me. But I really, for the masking meeting, I want that data beforehand. I really do.
No, I agree on that. I think if we're going to do a survey,
having
a second meeting, having a meeting on the 14th is
And a matter of fact,
we get that data.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we also plan to survey the staff again because we felt that some of the survey was misleading. We were using vaccination rates. When we dug into the details with the task force today, we started talking about positivity rates. So So I think it's got to be simple and maybe not even include either of those and just get a sense of, you know, how are people feeling about, you know, eliminating the mandate, the mask mandate. And that can be parents, students, and staff again, but it's going to take a little while to collect that data and get that to everybody.
I don't mind meeting on, say, the 14th and 15th and just doing the reorganization. I think that would be a, you know, a nice short meeting and to get it done.
Right. And then whoever is chair will have time to prepare for the mask discussion.
Wait, are you now talking about having 3 meetings?
No.
I hope not.
No, but I think we should. Yeah.
You could go ahead, but don't look
Yeah,
at
no,
me.
no, not 3 meetings. It's that we can have a masking and all the other. You just have the reorganization meeting on the 14th. I think that's what David was talking about. Just get it done. You know, it's
But
very
won't that
early.
make it 3 meetings?
Hmm?
It's Colleen. I didn't raise my hand. I'm bad. Won't that make it 3 meetings?
Yes.
No. Well,
And when are we going to do the agenda stuff?
I think we do that on the same time as the masking. I think we do that. What's the 20th?
It's a terrible idea.
Okay, but it is an idea.
It is an
all
idea.
idea. Don't do that. You're taking one thing out that's easy and putting the 2 hard things together. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, that's a terrible
Because
idea.
we're gonna have. I mean, look.
Hey, I never said all my ideas are good.
The people who want to comment on the mask thing need to have their own evening. We need to be able to give them all the time that they need to say everything they need to say, and not have any other agenda hiding behind it. It's a terrible idea to
Right.
put all those things on the same night. I'm telling you.
We have heard from Brittany Preston that the 14th is just a little bit too close to have the data. And I think, Davis, did you say that you wouldn't be able to do the 14th?
Yeah, I do have a conflict on the 14th, but 15th would be fine.
So why don't we split it down the meeting? Split it down the middle. Do reorganizations, some of the agenda items, and then masking and all the easy agenda items.
No. No, I think Elizabeth is right that the 14th, or not the 14th, I'm sorry. The 15th, we have reorganization and we have the masking.
On the 15th?
Yeah, reorganization doesn't take that long.
Okay.
I mean, that you could do both of those, I think, the reorganization and the masking on the 15th.
No.
So,
we can't have the masking on the 15th because we won't have the data.
Yeah, that's true. I'm so sorry. Okay, so reorganization and masking on the 21st.
You can't do that either because
Why not?
Why? Because
you have to be reorganized.
We have to be reorganized.
That's what I'm saying. We reorganize on the 21st. And then we have the masking at the same meeting.
Okay, and then do agenda items afterwards?
On the 28th.
That's got my vote.
Angie.
And again,
Yes.
I won't be there, but I think you can
2
do it.
thumbs up, way up.
Okay. Leave it to Amy to come up with the answers.
Which one are you not going to be at, Dave?
So again, I will make every effort to be there virtually. I think I can be. And if not, I know that Angie and the administrative team can back me up extremely well, especially if we have taken care of the masking issue. I think that's the one that, I don't want,
You need to be at the masking.
I think I need to be at that meeting just to share the data, just to talk about the task force results, and to listen to the parents, and that sort of stuff. So let me make sure I understand this then. On the 21st, right? On the 21st, we are going to do, what are we doing? We're doing the reorganization.
Then masking.
And then masking, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to call it mask protocol.
Ah, lovely.
And then what we'll do after that is March 28th, if I'm hearing everybody correctly. I just want to get this right for the minutes. March 28th, we'll do the other agenda items. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, which are policies, calendar, early release days, recovery and data, Mary Gannon, and the ARPA ESSER stuff.
Yep.
And Anne Marie, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask David if he can make sure that for the meeting on the 21st, he will you be able to talk to the people at risk management before that meeting to
I'm
see
sure
what our responsibilities are with that?
Yeah, we will. And by then too, they will have been able to absorb the data that they get from the Agency of Education, Vermont Department of Health. So we'll just be in a better place then, to make a final decision. In the meantime, and I think this is good for any parents that are left on, it's the intent, to, as Brian Martis said at Wethersfield, to begin to loosen up, start to, give kids a little more flexibility, and then we can make this final decision on the 21st, or at least hear about the data.
Davis.
Yeah, and David, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I just want to kind of reiterate and clarify too, for folks who are still listening, we've still placed we've still given you the ability to guide this policy in the meantime. So us not having a vote doesn't mean that things won't be rolling out in that time. As more information gets out and as conditions change.
That's correct. When the governor removed the emergency order, this was over a year ago, this board decided to delegate the authority to make those day-to-day decisions to the superintendent. And that's what I've been trying to do. It isn't easy, believe me, but we've been doing it, and I've got a lot of good people around me helping me do that. So that'll continue absent a vote to change that. And then on the 21st, we may have a vote to do that. We may not, but on the 21st.
And just for the folks who are on right now, and Larry maybe raised his hand to address this, but just kind of running down how this information is getting out, just so we're really clear on that.
Larry?
Yeah, I was going to actually talk about something else real quick, but I can speak to that in a second. David, you asked me to do a report on finance and operations for the March meeting. It seems like you guys have a pretty full agenda. You want me to push that till April? Would you like me to do that?
Yeah, we can push that to April. Yep.
Okay, so I'll do that. And then as far as disseminating information, I can make sure that, we can make it more clearly on the website, maybe a black bar. We've done that before for special meetings. So you just, right, it's we call it the nav bar. So like right when you get to the website, it shows up right away. Social media is also a good time to, put out notices. So I can talk about that. And if people like the idea of a robocall, we don't normally do robocalls for regularly sworn meetings, but if the board would rather do a robocall,
we can do it
a few days before out, maybe 3 or 4 days out, David. We could grow a message that goes out to everybody. So we can do whatever between the robocall and the nav bar on the website. I don't think anybody's going to miss the 21st.
Yeah, that'll work. And I know that was a suggestion that was put in the chat earlier, and we can do that. I just want to make sure, and I know the board had no intention tonight, nor did anybody on the administrative team or the COVID task force to, have decisions made tonight or to have this be a surprise. We just learned of it just before vacation. So we'll make sure we know how important the issue is, that we get the data through surveys, and that we also give the public ample notice that that's a special meeting on March 21st. And it's my understanding that meeting is for reorganization and mass protocol, and then everything else is happening on the 28th. We're all in agreement with that? Okay, good.
Yes, we are.
Just one more very.
I guess, yeah.
Sorry, one more quick question, I guess. So I like the idea of doing the robocall for a special meeting. That's totally appropriate to make sure folks are aware of it. The website banner thing, having the black bar go. I mean, would that be too arduous to have for every time we have an SU or Mount Scottney district meeting? Just thinking of ways that'll get more people aware of it. If that's a fairly easy thing to do, I think that could be something we could just do every time.
It's easy. Let me see if I can find the best way to do it. I mean, my fear is that it would get lost. It would just become part of the website. If you did it all the time, it would just be part of the website all the time, and people. So you want to make it special and you want it to pop. So let me see what I can do about making more obvious when the upcoming board meeting's on the front page without doing the black bar. Do the black bar for the special meeting on the 21st. But going forward, I see what you're saying. Let me think more about that. I agree with you, Davis. I just don't want it to be part of the culture of the website. I want it to pop when it's important.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, Larry, because obviously we don't want this to become informational white noise for folks.
Exactly. I don't want it to just be another drop down, you know.
Totally.
Just another place that meetings have been announced are the weekly updates that David sends out. There's always towards the end,
We'll put the dates in.
Have been the meeting dates. And Kate, Ryan, your hand is raised.
Yeah, so typically I put the links in with the parent update, but that can get lost and all that. So it's a very easy fix to just put the email in the subject line, meeting links and dates, and do it as a separate email. I think that would be useful, and that's easy.
And that's what we've been doing. The problem tonight was that in the links that I've been giving out, because I wanted this meeting on January 28th, and then 2 email blasts after that. The problem is the agenda didn't have the masking protocol on it because we didn't know about it. So this time we'll make sure that everybody knows that's the agenda item. And if you want to weigh in, show up. Maybe by then people who have been surveyed might not want to, but they certainly have the ability to do that, and they should know about it. So we'll do that.
Okay, Elizabeth.
All I ask is that you make it really clear that it's also a reorganizational meeting.
Yeah, it'll be on that agenda. That's correct.
Thank you. Kate, did you have more?
No, I forgot to take my hand down.
Okay. It is 9:21. It's been a lovely night.
Yeah.
So I want to thank Scott for his years of dedication to the Heartland School Board and to the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board. You have stood up for your town and for all of the kids of all of our communities, not just Heartland. You've been a very strong and steady voice, and we will miss you. And you're always welcome to run again.
Thank you, Amy. I really appreciate that. It was very nice. And I have such a high respect for all you board members and school leaders that we see here on a regular basis. And it's been a great growing experience. But there are lots of capable people in our communities. And so I don't feel bad at all. And I think it's healthy. So
Yes, well, thank you. Again,
Let us know what life on the outside is like, would you?
Oh, yeah, I will.
Come
I
to our
wish
meeting
you
on
were
the
in
21st.
person so we could all say goodbye in person.
Good job.
Sorry, I didn't hear that, Nikki.
I wish we were all in person because it feels really weird to be waving goodbye to you on a screen. So please
Yeah.
come back when we're in person so that we can all hang out again.
You'll always be
Yeah,
among
I'm
us,
not going
Scott.
away.
Yeah.
We'll go down to Bee Gees and get a coffee.
thank you.
Bye.
And thank you for being a voice of reason and again, a strong voice for all of the kids of the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union.
Well, you're welcome. Yeah, thank you. And you're welcome.
Are there other people?
You'll be missed.
Yes.
Other
Are
people
there
who
other people who are leaving?
Just Bill.
I don't think so, Bill. Yeah, Bill, if he doesn't have a good day on Tuesday, could be.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
But other than that, I think I think everybody's back. Whether they'll get back on the SU board, I mean, I know it's a very highly sought after position, but it's really up to your individual boards to appoint you to the SU board. So make sure you tell them how much fun it is. I think the chairs are generally automatically part of the SU board, but then the other two members are appointed.
So thank you.
And Mount Scottney has their budget informational meeting tomorrow night.
Correct.
And then Weathersfield on Saturday morning.
Yes, and that's another, I wish everyone the very, very best on town meeting for elections as well as budgets. It's really important that we are able to continue all of the good work that we've been doing. So thank you for all of the work that all of you have done, and best of luck on Tuesday. And unless we want to talk until 9:30, I will take a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
I'll second. Nikki.
Thank you. And all in favor? Yes. Aye.
Aye.